On March 25th, 2021, Senator Bernie Sanders introduced a bill titled For the 99.5% Act. This game-changing legislation will have a dramatically bad effect on decades and decades of law that wealthy families have relied on to transfer wealth. However, I think that parts of this supposed For the 99.5% Act are actually going to hurt the very people it is supposed to protect and be for. Let's jump right in with some of the more dramatic changes to the estate planning laws, proposed laws, and how I think some of it will actually affect 99.5% of Americans. Right now, as we sit here today, the federal estate tax and gift tax is a flat 40%, but the estate tax exemption and the gift tax exemption are both at $11.7 million per person. And guys, that's a lot of money. And what it actually means is that before that 40% estate tax kicks in, it only applies to that amount of money over $11.7 million. So as you can see, it only affects a very small percentage of Americans. And you've heard me talk about it in these videos up here, which I do on an annual basis, that right now, a married couple has a federal estate tax exemption of $23.4 million. $11.7 million per person. So right now, the $11.7 million per person is tied to inflation. So it goes up a little bit each year. And that is one of the very first changes under the proposed legislation. The federal estate tax exemption and the federal gift tax exemption will no longer be tied to inflation. They will just stay the same. In addition, the federal estate tax exemption would be reduced over 70% from $11.7 million per person to $3.5 million per person. Like I've said in other videos, even at the $3.5 million per person, it only affects a very small percentage of American taxpayers. However, if you're in that small percentage of American taxpayers, this is gonna hurt. What I think is even worse is, like I just mentioned, the federal gift tax exemption has traditionally been the same as the federal estate tax exemption, and both are currently at $11.7 million per person, right? Under the proposed legislation by Bernie Sanders, the federal gift tax exemption is reduced from that $11.7 million per person to only $1 million per person. Along with that, the annual exclusion amount, which has been $15,000 per person for many years now, is going to be reduced to only $10,000 per person annually. This is the annual amount you can give to anybody tax-free. Now you might be thinking, well, I still don't see how this affects me, right? Here is how. Currently, you can give $15,000 per person to as many people as you want tax-free. Remember, this is per person. So a married couple with 3 kids could potentially give each one of their 3 children $30,000 every single year tax-free. So that is $90,000 each year to their 3 children. So if they were to do this over, say, 10 years, that is a potential tax-free giving of $900,000 to their 3 children. Under the introduced legislation, a donor, a parent, for example, can only give $20,000 total per year, and a recipient, the child, can only receive $10,000 per year. That means, in the example that I just gave, a married couple which was giving $90,000 per year to their 3 children, $30,000 each, under the new legislation, they could only give each child $10,000 per year annually. This is the part of the 99.5% Act that I think is really going to hurt the average American taxpayer. The intent might be just to tax the wealthy, but this is going to take a huge gift tax savings for everyday Americans who are in that 99.5%. Think of all the parents or grandparents that are out there that might not use this gift tax exclusion every single year, but might want to use it just every now and then to help their child or their grandchild out with college education, buying a new car, or starting a business, or even purchasing their new home. Now they're only going to be limited to $10,000 a year. This is where I think this legislation is really, really going to hurt the average American taxpayer. The next really big change in this proposed legislation is eliminating the flat rate of 40% estate tax and instead changing it to a sliding scale. Under the new legislation, the estate tax will increase to 45% for estates from $3.5 million to less than $10 million. The estate tax will increase to 50% for estates between $10 million and less than $50 million. The estate tax will also increase to 55% for estates between $10 million and less than $1 billion. And the estate tax will increase to a whopping 65% for estates over $1 billion. Now again, I know this only affects a very small percentage. This legislation will practically also eliminate the so-called dynasty trust or the generation skipping trust that wealthy Americans have been using for years. In addition, it will probably eliminate the grantor annuity trust, which many average Americans use on a regular basis. It should be noted that Congress has already passed and used the reconciliation or the budget reconciliation process once this fiscal year. So the soonest that this legislation could be passed as part of another budget reconciliation process is October 2021, which is the federal government's next fiscal year. Now, the reason Congress needs to do this through the budget reconciliation process is there is pretty much a zero chance that any Republicans are going to vote for this legislation. It is believed that this dramatic change to the estate planning laws could be included with that infrastructure bill that has been getting a lot of press lately. Now, they tried to include the $15 minimum wage in the last reconciliation process. However, 8 Democrats jumped ship after Senator Bernie Sanders forced a vote on the $15 minimum wage. So the reality is that this is just legislation that has been introduced, and no one really knows what will happen. Could those 8 senators jump ship again, or a completely different set of senators jump ship? However, it's widely believed that some form of this legislation could possibly, maybe, I don't know, get passed. And that is why you have probably seen a lot of videos and blog posts and newspaper articles on this legislation. So educate yourself and, well, stay tuned, guys. We'll see you next time. I know I've thrown a lot at you today, so that's why we've prepared our free guide on estate planning. I'll put a link to it in the description below and in the comment section below that so that you can download it and get started in the right direction. And to help you out even more, watch this video up here and this video up here. If you enjoyed this video, then guys, please smash that subscribe button and click on the like button. And also click on that little bell so you'll get notified every time we post a new video. Have a great day and an awesome week. And as always, thanks for watching.